Good morning, everybody, and welcome to What Up Wednesday. Okay, so what I want to talk about today is I want to try to explain to the people out there that are maybe into working out, maybe they're not into working out, the people that are at a different level than compete, they know and they're going to understand what it is I want to talk about today. But basically, I want this to get to the people, like say in the gym, that have never competed. Is I want to lay out pretty simple what it takes to be a competitive bodybuilder, whether it's at an amateur level or a pro level. It's all pretty much the same, except for the fact that obviously the pro level are, a lot more advanced. So what does it take to be a competitive bodybuilder and also be a competitive bodybuilder that wants to always be in that top 5 or not, or if anything, get first place? So here's where it goes. You start out training at the gym, and hopefully you have somebody, a mentor, a coach, a trainer, a lifting partner that knows what to do. Okay, because obviously when you first start out at the gym, a lot of people don't have a clue on how to work out. So obviously, number one is learning how to train properly to gain mass, and not just gain mass, but in the world of bodybuilding, it's all about aesthetics. A well-proportioned body so everything looks even. Okay, so for me, let's just take it back to, I'll just give you an example for me. Let's just take it back to 1985. That's when I started bodybuilding, and I was very fortunate. Literally within 2 weeks, you could see a difference in my body. But it wasn't mature muscle at that time. So what you want to do is you want to build, your body to where it's mature muscle, and maybe I could talk about that on a different What Up Wednesday, because these days a lot of people get into the sport, they want a quick fix, and they get on the sauce, then they're on stage, but you could tell that their body is not seasoned. So then what I did is I just trained hard because I loved it. Still had a life, still had the kids. Life was normal at that point. And I'm bringing that up because when you get in your mind that you're ready to compete and you pick a show, at least with me, I had blinders on. I actually sat down with the family every time I was getting ready to compete, and the kids were little. My wife at the time was very supportive, and they knew this was Dad's time to give it 100% because Dad wanted to win. Okay, so what you do is you train for a few years. And for me, like I said, I started in 1985, so by the time 1989 came, I know you've heard me talk about Scott Wilson before, but he was the IFBB pro that was there at the gym. He literally said, Dave, I walked in one day with my buddy Dave. And I walked in and said, hey, Scotty, what's up? And he goes, you're ready for a show, dude. I said, what? He says, you ready for a show? You have everything it takes to be a winner. And what I want to do right now is pull out the calendar and I want to pick a show a year out from now. And I said, yeah, I've been to a couple bodybuilding shows, but it's like, I just can't imagine me getting up there in my freaking underwear. He says, F all that, let's pick a show. And at that time, I had a handful of friends from the gym. They were competing, so I was starting to go to bodybuilding contests. And of course, it really got my interest. Long story shorter is that we picked a show, literally a year out. So I got into my head that I had a year, 365 days or so, to prepare to get my body in the best possible condition that it possibly can or could to go up there and compete with the best. And like I said also in the past, is back then in the day, the competitors were insane. There wasn't any slouches in any of the contests that I competed in. In all the classes, they came and they brought it to win. So speed it up. So a year out, what you do is what we did is we bulked up. We ate clean, but we ate a lot of calories. And eating a lot of calories for me is like 4,000 to 5,000 calories a day, eaten every 2.5 to 3 hours. That in itself is a job and a commitment. I trained twice a day back then. I did splits. I would go in, like say in the morning, and I would do, let's say, chest, and then in the afternoon or later on in the early evening, I would go back and I would train, let's say, triceps and calves or something like that. So my training regimen was all lined up. I literally had it all written out, because you got to have a plan, in order to, and then you need to execute it. And then once you do that, then you're on point. So that's what happened for quite a few months. Talk about maybe 9 months. Try to get as big as I possibly could. Try to stay safe without getting any injuries, and then just work my ass off, and always looking at myself, throughout this process with, some other eyes. And then obviously we wanted to work on the weak points. Fast forward to approximately 12 to 17 weeks out from the contest, because that first 9 months goes by pretty damn fast. And even though it sounds like hard work, which it was, your caloric intake is still high. So you're strong, you're full. I used to carry about 40 pounds extra on my off season. That's an old school way of doing it. Ronnie Coleman still talks about it. And actually, I still like doing that today, because you have extra fat on yourself, you're stronger. Nobody gives a shit, especially me, how I looked during those 9 months, because you're not going to look great when you take your clothes off. You're going to look big, but you're going to look very smooth. But I always trained and I always walked around with clothes on. I was never the type of guy that had a tank top on and shorts. It's just the way I was. So then what you do is you come up with a plan as far as your diet. So you start at a certain point. Basically, all I ate, or all people eat these days, is lean protein. So that's going to be your fish, that's going to be your chicken, it's going to be your lean meats, steaks, it's going to be protein shakes. As far as carbs goes, it was, again, all this is pretty basic. It's going to be brown rice, it's going to be green veggies, things of that nature, oatmeal, potatoes, things like that. Back then, we really didn't calculate fat, because we knew that the fat that we were getting in our system was going to be clean fat anyway. So back then, we weren't worried about fat like people are today. So then basically what you're doing is you're starting at, say, for me, I was about, say, call it 226, call it 230. So I wanted to get on stage at roughly about 190, which didn't happen, because I ended up going down to the middleweight class because I was noticing my body would be a lot better off being only 5'8.5", going into the middleweight class. So basically what you're doing is you want to lose about 2 to 3 pounds a week, and you want to keep your protein very, very high. That way you don't burn any muscle along the way, but you want to slowly deplete. And as you slowly deplete, you start seeing all your hard work coming into play, because you're shedding your fat slowly, and all of a sudden your muscles are starting to appear. So it's very, very tough. And then it comes time to about 2 weeks before a contest, and that's where the scientific, I don't know what you want to call it, but basically there's tricks of the trade to get your body into contest condition on that one day. And it's very, very tricky because you need to come in on point the day of the contest, not the day before and not the day after. So a lot of people come in and they'll miss it because they were off on whatever it is their preparation was. I was very fortunate. My very first show in 1990, the Santa Clara Muscle Classic, I took first place. But I'm here to, basically what I'm talking to you guys about is it is not easy for a competitor to get up on that stage. When you go there and you're in the audience, you're looking at competitors that have great physiques, but you have no clue what they've gone through. There's sacrifices for a whole year. I didn't go out and socialize. I was focused on that show for 365 days. That's what I lived for. Of course, I had to work. Of course, I had my family, but I was focused and I was on a regimented schedule. When it got down to say roughly halfway through, I probably started adding some cardio in there. And when I did cardio, I didn't go on inclines. I didn't go high resistance. I was taught to just burn your calories slow on cardio so you're not messing up everything that you worked for. And it's a lot more complicated to that. So 2 weeks before the show, you really start depleting. And a lot of people become irritable because their caloric intake is now low. So you're actually in a deficit as far as the calories that your body wants or craves. And you need to keep dropping down on the calories so you make sure your body's going to be coming in. I guess all in all, what I'm trying to explain to you guys is, for those of you that have never competed, is these people that you see up on stage, if you go to bodybuilding contests, or if you even see them on the cover of magazines, they go through hell and back. It's just a humongous sacrifice that an individual makes in order to come into the best condition that you possibly can. It is work. It's a full-time job. You're eating every 2 hours, and you're training. Never brought up this, but I also practiced posing for probably about 9 months. Here's a little something for you people out there that are getting ready to get up on stage for the first time. You need to practice your posing. You need to have somebody that can critique you so they can help you pose. These days you can go on YouTube and just go, I would look up the IFBB pros in the class that you're going to compete and look and see how what your mandatory poses are, how you're supposed to stand, or you can come to somebody like me and help you pose. But posing was also part of my daily routine. On top of that, I was tanning. On top of that, I was sleeping. So you guys feel me on this? It's a full-time commitment for people to get up on that stage. And I just want all you guys to know what everybody goes through. And it is freaking hell. It's you against you. A lot of people can't handle it, so they stop, but the people that can handle it we're different. We're usually type A's. We're regimented. Nothing's going to get us off course. God forbid you get an injury along the way. I did one time before a show. I actually tore my left tricep 5 weeks before a show, and I thought that was the end of the world. I ended up competing and fixing myself up to the best that I could, and I was fortunate that I had really good aesthetics, and I did win that show again. But there's all kinds of shit that people go through to get ready to compete, and I just want to let you know again that give those people an applause when they get up there, because especially the ones that are in the top 5, they've put everything they've had into getting their body ready, depleting, sacrificing, and just doing whatever it takes to be the best, at whatever it is that you're going to do. I know a lot of parents tell their sons or their daughters, I don't care what you guys do, but just be the best at it, okay? So if you guys have any comments, if you guys have any questions, if you're thinking about competing, hit me up and we will talk. But you also need, in closing, you also need to have thick skin. What I mean by that is, and I don't want to give anybody a bad taste in their mouth, but this is the reality. You're up there on stage, you know you look great, you know where your flaws are, maybe you don't have any flaws, but it's judged, okay? It's judged. And judging, unfortunately, is, what's the word that I'm looking for? It's, I can't think of the word right now, but anyways, it's subjective. There you go, it's subjective. So you have a panel of 7 judges up there, and plus you have a head judge. And how it works is the 7 judges will write down the scores per category, per bodybuilder, and then they'll hand it down to the head judge. And what they used to do, I don't know if they still do, but they'll throw out the high and they'll throw out the low, and they'll work with the 5. Okay? A lot of time judges will put you in certain orders and you'll hear a lot of boos from the crowd. Hate to say it, but yes, there's politics in at least bodybuilding. I'm going to stick to the bodybuilding right now. There's politics. I was the type of competitor that I kept to myself. In the beginning, I was backstage. I kept to myself. When I was on stage, I never looked to my left or my right. It didn't matter. I wanted to be the best that I could be and let the chips fall where they may. So when a person gets, say, second place, and by looking at this individual, no, this guy should have been first, there's really nothing you can do about it. You can go and talk to the judges afterwards, and if they're willing to talk to you, they'll tell you what you need to improve on. They'll tell you, where your strengths are. Basically, you take that for what it's worth, and then if you want to compete again, you go back, listen to their critique, talk to your coaches, and then, use that as a learning experience and come back and work harder. So I could talk about competing and getting ready for a competition for days. I hope this opens the eyes to the average individual out there that looks at the magazines. And by the way, when you're looking at magazines, people, and you get your bodybuilders, your physique competitors, your figure competitors, bikini competitors, they're most likely 2 things. They just got done with a show. I used to get photo shoots 2 days later, and the reason why I would do that is because with all my eating within Saturday night and all day on Sunday, I literally would put on 20 pounds in 2 days, but I looked phenomenal because I was full. I still had, very low body fat, maybe 2 or 3% body fat at the time. And it pushes everything out, so you're full, your veins are showing, you're still vascular, and it calls for a really good photo shoot. So the people in the magazines, there should be a disclaimer, because it's not realistic for you to look at a magazine and say, I want to look like that. Well, that person looks like that for that day. Okay, unless they're getting paid big time money and they have a lot of endorsements, then they need to keep that body like that, which is very, very tough to do. And also, when you're that lean, it's not safe. Okay, it's not normal to be dehydrated. Your body, is 75% water, and it's just not it's really not a safe sport. So you really got to be careful on what you do. But back to the magazines, is people, that's what you can attain at the top of your game, but you're not going to look like that every day. Once the photo shoots are done, especially for the competitors, and they don't have anything lined up, even if they're getting endorsed and they go to these expos, they got a few pounds on them, but they still look pretty damn good. All right, so any questions? I was trying to be as transparent as possible with this. I hope I didn't lose anybody. It's just tough to be a competitive bodybuilder, period. It's just tough. And then I could go on and on. That's about it. All right? That's it.